Wendell Baker. I was in the U.S. Army Medical Corps, and I served from 45 through 47, April of 45 till about September 47. Well, I was a student in Samuel Houston College in Austin, Texas. When I got old enough to register, I became 18. And as soon as I was 18 on the 13th of November, and when I came home for the Christmas holidays, I got my induction papers to be drafted in the Army just after I made 18. But then my dad got me deferred on the farm for 2 years as, to produce food and fiber. And so I was deferred on the farm, went from the induction process to a 3C classification, which was the farm deferment. And I was stayed on the farm there for 2 years. But after they had the Belgian bulge, when we lost so many soldiers in the European theater, they came back and drafted a number of us, called us in, who were exempted for various purposes. So I was home raising food. We had cows, and we were producing a lot of vegetables and a lot of animal feeds and things that were going other places. So I was busy all the time and stayed right on the farm and did that. Well, when they called me in to be inducted, and we went through the physical and everything, they did place me in the Navy. And I verbally objected to being in the Navy. It wasn't my choice and all. And the fellas just changed it right there and put me in the Army. So then I went to Fort Sam Houston, and from there to Fort Lewis, Washington, to train with the, well, that's really where they trained most of the fellows who just doing the menial jobs around in the Army, the truck driving and those things. Well, the one exception perhaps to my basic training is that I refused to take a rifle. So I'm one of the few GIs who did not, I don't know how to grease one or how to, you know, I'm a country boy and I know how to shoot rifles, shoot guns and all, but I did not accept a rifle for the purpose for which it was being issued. And I wasn't going to kill anybody. So I wasn't a conscientious objector. I don't mind serving, but there are plenty of things to do. So I was, after coming to Camp Crowder, Missouri, I was assigned for medical training. Then I came back to Fort Sam Houston, trained as a surgical technician. And if you know, surgical technicians with their training in the Army were certified to do things that registered nurses couldn't do, even in service. So we were trained for field combat, but hand-to-hand combat, no rifles. That's the one thing that discouraged me so much. And one of the reasons I wouldn't take a rifle. I'm going to kill fellas over there out in the field who were probably just like me, going to fight for a country where I can't participate in all of the promises that it makes to its citizens. And I was very conscious and aware of that, how others could take advantage of it and I could not. So I'm willing to serve, but I'm not going to kill anybody, because those boys from these other countries out there, just like me, probably have no idea and may be being used by their country to defend whatever they say they believed in. when we went ashore, after we were cleared and everything, we had all the proper inoculations and everything before they let us get off the boat. We went ashore. Then there was another young man just like me who was a graduate chemist from Tuskegee, Alabama, named Ebenezer Bush. And we two were together all through our basic training and everything, because he had the same situation I had. He was not willing to shoot at anybody and kill them for what we were supposed to have been sent there for, defend a democracy that we really couldn't participate in. That's really what it was about. And as a result, we were assigned to a trucking company, which was all black, for rations and quarters. But now the turnover of men, and this is one of the discouraging things, was so much that we never got those promotions that they came in and left. They, in the organization that size, they were authorized a lot of high-profile positions, you understand. But those were never made available to us. And the reason for that is that we were actually assigned to a trucking company for rations and quarters, but they were not authorized any medical personnel. So there was no place for us there, just to sleep and eat. But we were assigned to the dispensary for TDY, but they weren't authorized any black personnel. So we were caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. We didn't get the promotions and whatnot. Even though I'm a private, a buck private, a private first class, never got any further than the 2 stripes, you know. And now the other guys would come in there just like that. In a few weeks he's promoted and promoted again, and after a while he's 3 up and 3 down with a T in there or something like that. And he's serving under me. I'm giving the orders and responsible for all of his work and whatnot. But I don't get the money. I don't get that little money difference and whatnot. So that's why it wasn't very pleasant for me in a segregated army. I'm sure. I came back. Another discouraging thing, as soon as we got off of that ship and got on the train to come back, they were putting all of us coming back to Texas on certain cars together in whatever states, and at this train, we got off in Seattle. And then we had to come all the way back across states by train, you know. You heard the same bad statements that you hear them call us right out here on the streets, you know. But we were cooped up in there with them. Just be 2 or 3 blacks, maybe 40 or 50 whites. And they shooting a bull and using the same statements before us, you know, derogatory statements about us. Had to accept that for another few days before you get from around it. I'll come home and get put in the brig for fighting or something like that. No need of that, you know. So yes, it was a very bad experience. But I came back and immediately got back in college, even though I was late registering, but because of the grades level, the grades that I had on my transcript, they figured I could catch up and keep up, which I did. I graduated chemist after another couple of years. I finished my college work. I had other experiences that were very interesting. Texas would give its ex-GIs, they had what they call a 5220. You were eligible to draw $20 a week for 52 weeks. That's what they were giving the guys who were inducted from Texas. When you come out and discharge, honorably discharged, okay? When I came out, I couldn't get that. Now, to qualify for it, they would either place you in the kind of work that you were doing before you went in service or what you were trained to do while you were in service. Again, I'm caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. I came back to Houston, where that's where I stopped when I came back. And I wanted to get back in college, which I did, but I went down and applied for my 5220, so you had to wait 2 weeks. Let's see if they could find you a job in either what you were doing or what you were trained to do, what you were doing before you went in service. Okay, I went back at the end of my first 2 weeks, and of course you could look out across this big office where all these fellows were working, and every one of them were Caucasians, no blacks working in there. So I was a surgical technician, but they had some requests for orderlies. We call them in the Army bedpan commanders. So they offered me a bedpan commander's job, and that wasn't what I was trained for. And that wasn't what I was willing to accept. So he just turned around and said to all others, "You hear what this nigga said? He's a surgical technician, won't take a job. Boy, we can't give you this money if you don't want to work." No, I walked on out. So I never got my 5220. But I went on to school and went through that. Then my first job was teaching right back here at my hometown. And I got it because a fellow who was working at Sam Houston State University when I was inducted into the Army, when I first finished high school, really, it was, gave me my first job. I worked for Sam Houston State for $20 a month for about 5 months, and saved me $40 and went off to college, and that's when I went to Samuel Houston College in Austin. Well, that fellow was no longer there, and he was in the dry goods store business here. And when I walked by him, "Hey, Wendell, what are you doing?" I told him, "Well, I'm back out of the Army and served my time, and I'm getting my degree in chemistry here next month." "Oh, good. So you want to teach?" "Not necessarily." "Well, look, come by here the next couple of hours." Say, come by here, and he gave me a time. I came back, and he had the superintendent there. And they walked in and said, "Yeah, we need a chemistry teacher. So would you work for us?" I said, "Well, for a couple of years. I want to get in medical school, but you know, no such thing in the state of Texas for black. You'd have to leave the state to go to medical school." So I was going to work a little while because I had married then and had a couple of children. And I'm going to go ahead and teach a few years and then go on to medical school. But after about 12 years at that, and my not making even, the black teachers were not making what the other teachers were making, and I wasn't making enough to go there. In fact, I worked 12 years, I never made $300 a month. So as a result, I decided I would build me a home. And the Veterans Administration had told us when we finished, we were discharged, that if you decide you want to build a home or buy a home, that the government would guarantee up to 90% of it, or pay the first 10%. Or you're going to build, they would do that, whatnot. So I decided to build me a home on property that I had acquired that the family already had. And I did this. The mistake I made was putting brick around the outside of it, which was the first brick home that a black owned in Walker County. And it just turned out to be an attraction for the powers that be to drive way out here in the country and just sit out on the road and look at us working and building this house, you know, and they determined it was mine. Well, when it came, since the black teachers only got a 1-year contract, it came April 15, when the contracts were given out, I didn't get one. Superintendent told the principal to tell me he wanted to talk to me before he gave me my contract. And when I went over to talk with him, the principal called, told him he was sending me over. I went over to talk with him. He said, "Wendell, if you'll sell that house you got out there that's causing so much controversy with the white folks, I'll give you your contract." I said, "I'm not going to do that." "Well, this is your last year here with us. I can't help you now. You can't work here." So that put me out of the classroom. So I went on to, Well, by chance, I got an opportunity to go to industry. And that was because I did another boy a favor by taking him to this employment agency. And the man was gone, so I didn't want to sit out there in the car. So I went inside where it was cool, and the man we had to see wasn't present. It was a private employment agency who was looking for personnel for a chemical plant that was building and coming to Texas. Well, Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company was building a synthetic rubber plant in the Beaumont, Port Arthur area. And they had them looking for rural-reared black boys to work at this plant. So he had sent out a letter to all of the black county agents to get some of these boys, county agents, you know, that work with the farmers. And so they had received letters. But I went in his office, and here was this young man. He told him about this letter he had, wanting some, and he wanted to go down, so I carried him down there. And while I was sitting there, the lady said, well, I know he hadn't come back, but he'll want you to take this test. Okay, so she brought us a test. And standardized testing program he's following. Okay, so she handed him one, she handed me one. I took the test. She went in, put them in the machine, they graded. She brought us a second, say, well, he ought to be here any time. He doesn't usually stay gone this long. Say, would you go on and take this one? And then she gave us a Coke, a piece of drink. Okay, so we did that. Took that one. Then she said, I don't know why it's so long. Say, yeah, I'm gonna give you this last one. And you can, the first were limited times. You know, you got 15 minutes or 30 minutes or something. And last one, you take as long as you want to. Well, since I had had testing and measurements in college, preparing for a degree to teach, you know, and all also, I had the training in administering standardized tests, and because I had to do it at the school, because nobody else in the school had that training. So, and I doing these tests for the students, that was just an extra duty they put on me instead of the counselors and whatnot who should have been doing it. So I was familiar with the kind of tests and what they measured. So the last one was a personality test. How do I get along with people, you know? And the others one was a mechanical aptitude test and then something else. But when the fellow came, the lady went upstairs with him. He came down and told me, I want you to come upstairs and talk with me. And first thing he told me, where did you take your training? I said, oh, I'm a farm boy. We had to make the little tractor run and keep it running and all the work and whatnot. And but I did finish college. So. He said, you made the highest score we've ever had on that mechanical aptitude test. So I wanted to know where you had your training. There's no formal training in that. But anyway, he said, I'm going to send a letter to this chemical company. And I'm going to write a letter and put with it, with this information on you, and I'm sending it to them. If you don't hear from them, I'll say in 5 or 6 days, just come on back down here. I'll have something waiting for you. And then about the second day or so, Beaumont Chemical Plant called me, asked me if I'd come over for an interview. And I did. So from there, I was told just before, when they got through with the interview, asked me would I come and work for them. I said, yes. He said, well, I can't tell you what your salary will be, because you're going to be worth more to us than the guys you're going to be working with, because you're bringing something with you that they don't have and they can't bring. That was my black skin and whatnot. He said, because we're going to have to integrate our staff. We're going to lose the biggest customer we had, and that's the U.S. government. He's saying we're not going to do that. So you're going to be the Jackie Robinson for the oil and chemical industry in this area. You know what that means, yes. I'll be down here by myself. So and he went on to tell me B.F. Goodrich and Gulf and Texaco and all of these big chemical companies down there, Gulf Goodrich, you know, so many of them, I can't even name them. But anyway, none had a black in any technical position whatsoever, none. So I was the Jackie Robinson for the oil and chemical industry. And got along fine because I was paid to get along and do my work. That's really what it was. And that was right at the time, boy, when the Alabama was having all of the problems, and we had a TV in there, and on weekends they would watch it. And you know what happened on those Sunday weekends when they were policemen, highway patrol, beating up those people trying to cross the Pettus Bridge, Dr. King there marching, all that sit-in demonstrations and whatnot. And seeing those boys would just discuss it right in there. I'm the only one, so they didn't care about it. But, you know, you'd be surprised, though, some of those fellows were very understanding and understood how I would feel. So they weren't trying to make me feel bad, but these was just what we were seeing on TV and being discussed. And I wasn't, at least, I wasn't offended at all by, I was just discussing it for what it was, just like I'm talking to you. You know, I didn't like it, but it was something I had to take. You understand? And I'm not going to get up here and make everything change by myself on my own. You know, I was certainly be a part of making a change, but you know, there's a way we're going to have to do it. But then, yes, I said to myself when I was over there working, this is 100 and some miles from where my home is and my family, and I did not sell that, and I did not move them. I just worked there on my work days and come back. I say, I'm going to make a difference in my community. It's not going to be the same when I die as it is now. And my children are not going to come up under the same situation. So I just turned out to be an agitator, or what else you want to call it, a troublemaker, activist, whatever you want to call it, that. And I looked at, and I started out, Truman had just given an executive order that since politically, all of the South is Democrat, one-party system in the South. You cannot deny blacks the opportunity to participate in the primaries. Your choice is made in the primaries. And that's the only name on the ballot in the fall, so there is no choice in the fall. You understand? In a one-party system, you got a Democratic primary in the spring, and a ballot with nothing but Democrats in the fall. So we had nothing. If we go out there and vote, didn't make any change in anything. So we had to let us participate in the primary. I came home one weekend and I called my Secretary of State over here to find out what did he have as registration for blacks in Walker County. How did we compare in numbers? And I think I was informed that we were 42% of the population in Walker County. We had to pay poll tax. Against the law to pay somebody's poll tax, but I can lend them some money. So I'd come by the bank and get my whole check and bundles of $1 bills, rolls of quarters, and rolls of halves. And I had a young couple that would put it there, called a meeting of 40 of our leaders, ministers, and all of the, they called in the black community, the black leaders. 7 men showed up. Some of them couldn't read and write. And I joined them. That was 8 of us, and I started with that. And we had to pay poll tax, so I loaned some money out to pay poll tax, but I taught them how to. I got one application where you fill it out and mail it in and get it, and I went and had some printed, just like that. And I taught them how to do it and what the law was. And they went door to door, house to house, getting everybody in the household who was old enough to register, 21 and over then, to register. And the other thing is that a mother could register for her children even though they were grown and are gone and weren't in the same household. She could register for them. She could register for her husband, The husband could register for them and his wife, but the children couldn't register for each other. The children could register for their mother and dad and themselves. So I taught them what to do. We went out there and 65% of the people registered to vote at the end of January, which poll tax could only be paid from the first day of November to the last day of January. That was to keep poor people from voting, and most of the work when that law was made was outdoors when it's raining and cold and freezing. There's nothing for you to do. So they didn't have $1.75 to spare. So they don't ever vote. Because if you don't pay it now, you can't vote even in the fall. So 65% of the people registered to vote, registered at the end of January was black. So then we got busy. Okay, but since the camera's running, I won't say what I usually say.
That's okay. Go ahead.
It's kind of profane-like. Is that okay?
Yeah, like you're going to be the first.
Okay. Well, you can wipe it out. Okay. As I told my fellows, now we kick ass and we take names. We ain't going to bother about the name to get through with the ass kicking. Because all of the people who make the decisions that governs the way we live, so if they are not elected, somebody above them is elected. And they want to keep that position. So we are in position to take that position from him.